Hello friends and welcome. Today, I don't know what this is. It's like a pro comparison where someone sent in a replay of Chen, and I'm not a huge Chen player, but I still want to help. And so we're going to look at two pro players. First one is Puppey and then Husky, and then we're going to compare it to our, I think you were Archon 5, I kind of forget. We're going to see when we get to that third replay. But yeah, we're just going to look at the first few minutes of laning and then go from there. So, right now we're looking at Puppey, and I want to point out a couple things. He's laning against... Okay, actually, you don't know who he's laning against. But note how he has placed his ward here to play it safe, because multiple people he could be against, Wind Ranger, Tiny, Bat Rider, they're pretty irritating. And so he wants to see them and avoid them. He's got one Tango, and his headdress is pretty common on Chen. Actually, he's got a couple different starting builds. But then he also has a Sentry, because he wants to make sure his camps are open, because this could be a tough lane otherwise if he can't pull. Plus, Chen is a hero that his whole thing is being able to persuade creeps onto his side and help him fight in the lane. So if your camps are blocked, you can't really make use of that, and it kind of sucks. So look at that. He already checked this camp to make sure it is not blocked, and I think he suspected that because he saw the Tiny run over.
Yes.
So, notice how he starts to play over here, and he's able to do this because he has this ward giving him vision. Now, it's kind of revealing that he has the ward, but I don't think he really cares because he just needs this ward to survive the next minute or two. Like, if you think about it, by the time the enemy... Okay, so he attacked them like 10, 20 seconds ago. At that point, the enemy says, hey, he probably has a ward here. Let's buy a sentry. Maybe they don't have gold for a sentry, so they have to wait for a sentry, then they have to call the sentry over. By that point, it's like 2.5 minutes in the laning stage already, and camps are spawning. And so when once he has his Holy Persuasion creeps, he doesn't really care. So see, look at this. As long as he sees Tiny, he feels safe to walk over. He comes over to check for creeps, sees that he still has nothing, so he's just holding his second point because... Well, actually, I think it's interesting. I think some people would take Holy Persuasion and get the range creep, but Puppey decides not to. And in fact, we're going to see him level up Penitence level 2, which is pretty rare, I would say. But I do like this as a way. So here he levels Penitence to try to get the kill on Tiny, and it forces Tiny to TP out, and it ruins Tiny's attempt at pulling, although it did end up having both camps blocked again, so that part was a success. Now, one thing I want to highlight as we continue to watch this, because your original question for the third replay we're going to get to was like, what do I do when I end up in a bad laning phase? I want to redirect your question, because some heroes are not supposed to have a bad laning stage, like Puppey. And so I know it's good, like I know you should know how to play a hero from behind, but I think there are times where it's better to just focus on not being behind and realizing, okay, how do I adjust my skill build to make sure that I am always doing even or ahead in the laning stage as much as possible? Because if you always plan to like play behind even when you should be winning, it's just suboptimal, I guess. And eventually you will want to know, how do I play it? You know, how do I play when behind? But Chen is one of those examples where it's like, it's really a lot better to just put yourself ahead like 80% of the time, because Chen is a really strong hero for that. I also like this version as a way to show how he's not actually using Holy Persuasion yet, just because look at these camps. Like, he hates his life right now. Like, Tiny keeps blocking both camps and he can never do anything. So he's using, you know, Penitence. He's using their move speed with Drought to try to unblock all these camps, and Tiny is spending a lot of his time blocking camps. Tiny's not able to get that much done because there's two ranged heroes and they have vision of him, and Tiny is just blocking the camp yet again. Look at that. Oh man, Puppey is fuming right now. He picked Chen. He didn't have a single creep to play with.
Radiant's courier has been killed.
He's gonna TP out right away, which is pretty smart play. Cast his spells first and then leave. Ring of Basilius, pretty good for Chen because he's an aura builder. He could turn this into a Vlad's, or he could just leave it at a Bassi, not bad. Drow, her new multi-shot and the fact that she uses her Q to harass sometimes, it ends up needing a lot of mana, so Puppey doesn't mind having this Bassi in the lane. Now note this, he takes this Purge creep. And I want to show this. This is a really strong spell. Because purges are not that common in this game. And it's really good this time. Because it can be used on... Oh my god. Guys, I don't know. You can cast this on your allies, right? Yes. Whew. Okay. So you can use it on your teammates when Batrider is stacking up a bunch of stickies on them. And you can also purge, for example, Wind Ranger's E. And so that gives a lot of value. Plus it provides a slow. And so it's just a pretty good creep to have in this game. And poor Tiny's only level 2. Look at that. The double slow from Penitence and this creep. Gonna get another kill. Even though he didn't even get a creep as Chen until like the 5-minute mark, the lane is actually going pretty well. Disrupted Tiny from doing what he wanted, doing some body blocks and 6 slows with his creep, the few that he does have. I just think it's a really cool use of his abilities. Even though he's got 2 points in Holy Persuasion, he's not using both of them right now. Denies his own creep. Puppey's a very good mechanically strong player. That did not block the camp. I know it looked really close. It did not. I promise. Like I said, he's a very good mechanical player. So he liked that creep so much, he's gonna come back here to get it. I think that's really good for the lane. And like he could have taken some of these others. He's gonna tell LC that he wants this creep. Gonna wait for Persuasion. Now he's got this creep. This is another strong creep for the early game. I mean, if you're a Chen player, you probably know. If you guys don't play Chen, you're probably not watching this video. So, but yeah, this is kind of coming to the end of this first clip that I want to show. Just that he didn't really get to use creeps like he usually does, but he still found a way to do well in the lane. And it required him, you know, this isn't the normal Chen play, right? He had to buy a lot of sentries to deward this stuff, and then Tiny invested a lot of time doing this stuff, but it's okay because he identified that Tiny needs to make things happen. And he wasn't able to because they had this vision to play safe from Tiny, and Tiny tried to then roam, but he was under-leveled, and without, like, Tiny had to block these camps to stop Chen, but what that means is that Tiny can't pull camps either, so he has nothing to do in this lane if it's like playing anywhere in this area, and they see him here. Like, how does Tiny ever get a good combo off and throw someone back? It's really tough for Tiny. And so Puppey, even though he doesn't get his creeps, he knows, like, okay, I'm not doing the most I usually do, but actually Tiny is doing even worse than he usually does. So as long as I do a little bit, I'm actually in a winning lane somehow. So yeah, we'll go to 10 minutes, and we'll do them all to 10 minutes, just to see how that goes. Yeah, he's just playing around here. Actually, we should go back to his perspective, shouldn't we? Now he starts pulling. Now that the enemy has been zoned out a little bit, they see the enemy heroes all coming. Rip Courier. Going for the mech. Very common. Drow dies. Kind of heavy investment for the Wind Ranger kill. I don't know. Not much you can do as Chen there. Alright. Let's go take a look at Husky playing Chen now, because he does a pretty different style. So I want to present like 2 different ways you could play Chen at least before we take a look at your play. Now we're going to watch Husky play Chen. Husky is a platinum Chen player, so pretty experienced himself. Actually, Puppey is too, but he was probably playing before hero levels were really a thing. A Husky has a different item build. He's got 4 sets of tangos, a ring of regen to turn into a headdress later, but decides he doesn't quite need it yet, and he has 2 fairy fires. We're going to see how this affects his playstyle. I want to point out the ring of regen is 1.5 HP regen. The headdress, now we can't see it there. The headdress is 2 HP regen. Now that's great for your carry, but for yourself, it's not a big difference. It is an extra, 250 gold for 0.5 HP regen, so that part is not so great. Of course, if you take Divine Favor, it does kind of amp it up a little bit more, but still, for 250 gold, you could have bought another Ring of Regen for 1.5 HP regen. So, purely for yourself, Headdress is not that good. And we're going to see how that affects his play, actually. because he ends up playing a much more aggressive style of Chen. Once the lane begins. And last time he had a Wind Ranger versus a Drow. So I'm going to point that out. Wind Ranger versus Drow, they're both ranged heroes, so they end up harassing each other a lot. That means the headdress provides more value to his Drow in that case. This time you have PA versus Sand King, and that's 2 melee matchups. That's a little irritating for PA. But PA has Dagger, which means she can avoid a bit more harass. And you know, he is going to get the headdress eventually. So it's not like he plans to totally leave her high and dry. I don't think I used that phrase right at all. I am distracted. He uses Holy Persuasion to take the range creep. This will end up pushing the lane, but it does mean that for this next wave or two, they're pretty strong because they have more creeps, and he has this slightly amped up range creep, which is very hard for them to kill. And you see him just harassing a lot.
Courier has been killed.
Now, because Lina went for a different style of play than that Tiny, both the camps are open, and so we're going to see Husky make use a lot more of these camps. He's going to do a pull here. And he's going to take over this little wildling. Lina actually messes up the pull, but look how much damage he takes. Husky's all up in here, constantly right-clicking. We didn't see Puppey do nearly as much. Puppey's game involved a lot more positioning, following the Tiny when he tried to pull, dodging the Tiny when he came to the lane. But this time, it's a lot more in your face. This creep is fantastic. I think the Harpy creep is probably like
top tower is under attack.
the best creep you could get in terms of pure harass, but this one is really good as well. And you see, like, Lina, who's supposed to be a strong lane bully, is getting wrecked this lane. Sand King, who's supposed to be a strong laner, might actually die here. Yeah, dies. A very aggressive style with this Chen, with Holy Persuasion. And to match it, he got those Fairy Fires, ends up getting a stick because they cast a lot of spells in this lane. And now he's going to get the headdress. He's just constantly taking creeps and sending them after the enemies. You're going to need more sentries because of this lane. Okay, we should demonstrate this. This is something. It's going to be hard to coordinate in pubs, I know. PA teleports home. He drops his item, tells PA to pick them up. PA gets to heal up, and now he brings her back. Divine Favor has a huge cooldown, but you can still use it once or twice in the lane like this. I think this is a great use of Divine Favor, and I don't think you used it in your lane, but I think you were partied with your carry, so it's definitely something you guys can plan out. Say like, hey, you want to go back and I'll drop my items and you heal up and get your own items, and you come back to lane with like very little time commitment. I think it's really strong. When Konka was a support, this was something you could do where you would X marks people and they could TP home, heal up, grab items. This is just, you know, a little bit longer of a cooldown than X marks, but the same concept applies. And we're going to see Husky pulling a lot this lane. He attempted to pull earlier on that hard camp. You see another couple pulls here. He wants to clear through the small camp a lot to keep cycling through the creeps to get the good creeps. Because some are not good. Like the kobolds, not very good. This camp is okay. This guy's not bad. He can spam heals, and he provides a mana regen aura, which actually isn't too bad for this lane. But I'm sure he would love to have the Storm Harpy. How many right clicks this guy's doing? We got the Fairy Fires. Playing a very aggressive Chen. He is a little scared to go out. There you go. This is a great combo, actually, because Storm Harpy uses a lot of mana, and this guy provides a mana regen aura. Interrupting pulls with his creep. He doesn't take damage, doesn't really care if that creep dies, plus that creep can heal itself anyways. Look at all this damage. It's gonna be really irritating to play against. And a kill with it. If you don't know, you're just watching this video and you're not really a Chen player. Chain Lightning, this creep never casts it on its own. So many people forget that it does this. And then because not a lot of people play like Enchantress or Harpy or Chen, and like Doom doesn't have the mana pool to sustain this. Helma Dominator is not very popular right now. This thing does crazy amounts of damage, 140 every 4 seconds. That's absurd. It's so irritating to play against. It's 50 mana, so the Harpy Stormcrafter can't actually, you know, can only cast it twice technically. But then when you have this mana aura, and sometimes people will get a Bassi early, like look how much he's regenning. You can just spam out the cast. I see he gets another creep he wants instead of that mana creep, and kills the camp because he wants to keep cycling through the small camp, get himself some experience. This lane is starting to go pretty well for them, and so now it's when Chen can start to move around a little bit. Bottom lane is actually also going fairly well for them. Nature's Prophet is doing fine on his own. Good rotations up here. I'm gonna kill this guy too. No, just gets away. Barely. You're actually going to see Husky start to go farm a little bit. And I think this is pretty cool to do. Often I would say, hey, you should go to the off lane and harass that out. Or go to the mid lane and try to pressure these towers. But Nature's Prophet is going to harass bottom on his own. Doesn't really need any help. And in a way, actually doesn't want help because he wants the solo XP and all of that. So Husky will just start to farm some of the camps. He steals some from the enemy side. Now he's going to come up here. Look at his carries. PA is probably going to die up here, but she wants to farm top anyways. Now she's dead, so she can't get any of this anyways. Oh, she's not dead yet. Now she's dead. Invoker, not really a jungle farmer when he goes Quas Wex. So these camps are okay to take, especially because now it's 9 minutes. They're about to respawn. He wouldn't have stacked this in time, so he's just going to start clearing it a little sooner. He's getting himself a good amount of gold and experience right here. And it didn't really affect any of his carries, right? You didn't see any of the PAs over here, the Invokers, the Nature's Prophet. They're not here farming, so they're not pinging him like, why are you taking my farm? And you're saying, you might be thinking, oh, should he pressure? Like we talked about, look at this. Like, Nature's Prophet doesn't need him. Let's go mid. Well, TA is actually pretty good against Chen, because she can, like, kind of kill off your creeps without even trying. And so that's kind of hard to do. Plus Invoker, he doesn't provide that much tower push, so we kind of want Nature's Prophet to be free when we start doing that. But Nature's Prophet, he just finished getting this bottom tower. So now it's kind of time, okay, now we can start to group and do stuff. But in the meantime, before that, Husky went ahead and got himself some extra farm and levels. So you see he'll actually, I think he'll hit 6 before 410? Especially if they get this kill. Or maybe at 10 minutes he'll get the XP from the thing. Now look at that, he hit 6. Well on track. And we didn't see him do what he usually, like, is very common where you rotate to other lanes. He won his own lane with creeps, and then realized he didn't need to go bottom, and he just spent the time farming to get himself more of a lead, and now he's going to go back to doing what Chens usually do, where you group up. Yes, 2 of these. Actually, I don't think stacking them is as good, because I don't think you, like, apply the slow twice. Alright, now let's go look at your game. Okay, here we are on Chen, Curly Bruh. So your build, you end up going, I think you shared 1 Tango with your mid, and you have a Headdress and a Fairy Fire. And then you've got Divine Favor. So if we think about who did this, Puppey did this, and he ended up doing a lot of, not as much right-click harass as Husky, but he ended up playing a bit of a passive start because his carry was going to get a lot of harass, and if we look at this matchup, you probably have a Wind Ranger Tusk, you have an AM. I think this all works because AM probably is going to get harassed pretty decently in this lane. The alternate way to approach this would be to play like Husky and go for a bit more harass-heavy lane, like get Holy Persuasion so that you create a lot of pressure, but I think that's a bit harder for you. Because PA can, like, throw out dagger to help you and she'll, like, fight a bit. AM is a little, like, he'll farm a lot. Now, actually, I do think AM can do a bit of harass at the start of a game, but it is a little scary against a Wind Ranger and Tusk.
The battle begins.
So Tusk is going to be the bane of your existence. You see that when he has tag team up, he hits you, like, 3-4 times. You lose a lot of your health. The difference, a comparable 4 support is Tiny, who needs to get on top of you to do a lot of damage. And we saw Puppey play against that. And what did Puppey do? He dropped the ward right here. I don't think... Yeah, you guys have a ward in stock. So I think you definitely could have taken a ward and placed it up here. And we're going to see how that would have been helpful as we go here. Yeah, so you walk out a little too far looking for Tusk. And now what's that mean? He's right on top of you. This kind of goes back to that Quelling Blade video where you didn't know where Tusk was, so you tried to walk up. And now suddenly he's like rounded a corner and he's right on top of you. And you're taking... you didn't take that much there. But like your return trade, not very good. Because Tusk with tag team is way better than you. Okay, we're in free... Here, let's go back to you. You can't see this. So you harass him a little bit. That part's good. Now you're not sure where he is again, so you peek your head out, and he's right here. And this trade favors him. Even though you both attacked each other twice, he has the damage block. And I think his stats are a little bit better than you anyways. 4 armor to your 1 armor. You know, yeah, you have the regen. But it does mean, at least until you regen, you are weaker. 1 minute, it's time to start thinking about pulls. Whoever you're playing, I think, as soon as you can, is great. Now, this wave is kind of big. So that's why I think like doing a half pull would be really good. Half pull this wave. Maybe even just grab the range creep. Just because then these 2 or 3 melee creeps tank for AM under tower. You give AM some experience, because once AM gets blink, he really shouldn't die in this lane. And you can start clearing out this small camp and try to start cycling through creeps. At least see what they are. And, I mean, yeah. You do that small pull, maybe you sap a bit of experience to get level 2. So you can get your Holy Persuasion and Wololo some creeps. Same deal. You're not sure where Tiny is. You try to walk out. He's right on top of you. Does a bunch of damage. You can't really trade with him. Now you end up going to look for a creep you want. And if we base it off what Puppey did, I actually think you could take one of these small creeps. Especially because you have Holy Persuasion. You should just take something, I think. And use it to fight. Holy Persuasion would slow Tusk. You can't dispel tag team, but it would at least slow him so he can't get on top of you. I think this creep does have a bit more damage.
Dyer's courier has
I don't know.
been killed.
I think Tusk is, I understand I've made the chase for couriers before. That's definitely not the play. I will say, when I saw you did this, I was very impressed. Triple stack, very good. One downside is that AM was going to take a long time before you can farm that, but you do have a sniper who can do it. So, that's not to, like, downplay it. Like, I think it's really good. You pulling with this creep, that's really good. This is mechanically very good. And in that case, you were, like, in that area from killing Tusk, so it was just, like, a very good opportunity moment thing. I guess what I'm trying to highlight is that AM needs your help now to have a good lane. And if you dedicate too much time to pulling, that can be, or stacking, sorry, that can be bad. Because AM, without a good start, actually just can't make use of stacks. So you have to make sure AM still has a decent start. Now, again, that case was fine because you happen to be in that area, so in that case, it was very good. But, like, you using this creep to stack instead of some... That's, like, something you could do, right? Because when you take damage, that puts you closer to dying. If this creep gets close to dying, who cares? You'll just take another one, you know? So send the creep to harass Tusk, and you pull. Because you want the XP from the pull, and you want the gold, and that creep just needs to do damage. So, like, right now, Tusk is just running free. Like, chase him. He's got 4 creeps on top of him. And this creep can add in a bit of damage. Or maybe if you have that slow creep earlier, you slow Tusk, so he takes some extra damage from these creeps, and then AM meets up and does a bit of damage. AM's just, he's having, like, a bit of a rough time, because I feel like you're not in the lane pressuring as Chen. You're doing these stacks, which is good later. It's not good now because you don't have a hero that can make use of it. Like, if you had a Naga Siren, that's very different. Naga Siren needs level 5 and she can start clearing stacks. AM needs, like, a Battle Fury, which isn't going to happen till, like, 12 minutes at the fastest, usually, if they, like, skip boots, or, like, 20 minutes if they're having a very bad time. And ideally, it's going to be like 15 minutes maybe with like Power Tread's Battle Fury. But that's not going to happen when AM's having a bit of a rough time because he has to 1v1 a Wind Ranger. You are kind of drawing the Tusk's attention. But I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Oh, if you had an Alchemist mid, I think that's another example where like spending your time stacking would be great. Although an Alchemist AM lineup sounds really bad. But just as an example, if you have a mid laner who could do these stacks very quickly, that's also fine. Sniper, yeah, he can do these stacks. But I feel like it's not worth sacrificing AM's time for your sniper. Maybe. I don't know. I think as a Chen who's known as a very strong laner, I think you just want to give AM a very strong start and let Sniper do his own thing. I think Sniper can make time to stack himself. Like here, actually, it's a good example. Here you're kind of like running around with your creep. But go back to the idea that these creeps are expendable. Just have the creep here, auto-attacking Tusk. And you're just getting free harass, and if Tusk chooses to fight the creep, you just wholly persuade something else, and he won't even get the gold. He just took damage for it. So like this is like 10, 15 seconds of running around with the creep where the creep could be harassing. And we saw like, okay, you know, just have Puppey level of micro, where Puppey had like creeps everywhere. But go with Husky, who had, you know, he was kind of clumped up with his creeps, but when he had them, he was fighting a lot. He was using them to fight the offlaner, fight the 4 position, and make space for his carry. Yeah, so this point where AM is 4, Wind Ranger's 5, Tusk is 3, and you just hit 3, you know we're in a very rough time. What just happened there? Bit of a misclick. Tusk, or I'm sorry, AM might have died anyways, actually, there. But, you know, he might have lived too. That was just a bit of misclick, a bit unfortunate. We'll not worry about that. But the fact is, at this point, the lane is already not going as well as we would have liked to. And if you're playing Chen, like, that's not what you want. And you know that. That's why you asked. So I think
under attack.
to start to summarize a bit, because at this point I already feel like we're off to a bad start. We took a lot of damage from Tusk in those first couple minutes. You know, accidentally running into Tusk here, poking out our head here, over here. Tusk got a lot of favorable trades, which, you know, if we had a ward to see Tusk, I know you wouldn't have walked into him because, you know, you're Archon. I'm sure you, like, I know you're good enough to see Tusk and know, I don't want to run into Tusk. Like, that doesn't benefit me. I just want to attack him from far away. But you couldn't see Tusk, and so you ended up in those situations. So, you know, grab yourself a ward if you can, and place it out here. Husky placed his here. Both give, like, vision of this area a little bit. You know, like Puppey's was here. For you, against a Tusk, I think this side makes a little bit more sense. Maybe, like, right here, so you can see here, and here. Because that's kind of where Tusk is going to be a lot of the time. And that would have helped you avoid these 2 bad trades right here. And, you know, maybe it wouldn't help you with this one, but at least we avoid those so that the one here, you're fairly full health. It's, like, not such a big deal at that point. Because you can get into, like, 1 or 2 bad trades, so long as, like, all of them are not bad trades. But, like, 3 bad trades very close together, that is definitely not good. And then when you get these creeps, you know, use them aggressively. Send the creeps to go fight. You do the pulls, or fight with your creeps. Either one works, depending if you have, like, really good creeps or not. I think you wholly persuaded one of their creeps. I think persuading one of the jungle creeps is a little better to get blasted. Yeah, anytime he's on top of you, it sucks. Gonna live? No, unfortunate. But yeah, at this point, the lane's kind of bad. And I know this is why you're asking, okay, what do I do now when I have a bad lane? But I think we could have avoided having a bad lane. And then you don't even need to ask, like, what do I do when I'm behind? You're just ahead. And I don't know why Tusk doesn't deny this. He definitely should deny that observer. At this point for you, bottom's not going well. Mid's not going Well, mid's like going okay, but Sniper, like, it's kind of hard to play with Sniper against a Quap because she could kind of just kill him because she has a lot of burst. I suppose you could take a bunch of creeps and go push mid with Sniper and try to bring in the enemy supports. But the thing is, like, top is kind of lost at this point, and bottom is lost at this point. So, like, if bottom was winning, I would tell you, you know, go bottom. The bottom's not winning. And many of your games, you don't really have control of whether bottom is winning or losing. But what we have control of is whether we have a good lane in top. And that's why I'd prefer to try to help you, like, aim to have a good lane rather than know what to do in a bad game. Because it's always gonna depend in a bad game. Like, can I play mid? Can I play bottom? In this case, you can't really play bottom, and playing mid is very scary because I think when Tusk rotates in, he's ahead. Tusk is ahead of you. And you know who else is ahead of you? Grimstroke. So either the support rotates in and they win that trade. So yeah, I don't even know if we need to go into the last 2 minutes before 10 minutes because at this point, I just think it's tough for you as a Chen. The stacking was great though. That was really good mechanically. And Sniper is going to catch up a bit there. So actually, you know, let's watch a little bit. Let's see if that's kind of what snipers do. I think right now you could be mid getting the XP or AM getting the XP here. Because when you stack like this, naturally your mid or whoever is going to come farm it. So if it's your carry, like you have a Naga, she comes to farm this, you stay here and you get the XP. If mid's going to do it, then you come here. Because what? This whole wave is like dying and going to waste. Yeah, it's like 2 creep waves. You're probably level 4 with those 2 creep waves. And then you have Penitence, or 2 points of Divine Favor if you want. But it's just like XP and gold going to waste. If you got all those last hits, you know, you are probably halfway to your mech. Maybe even a little further. Not to mention all the gold you just got from Sniper killing off those creeps.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
But 1 extra level on Sniper doesn't really mean he can deal with a Quap and a Tusk diving him. So it's still hard to say. Yeah, kind of like this actually. You can get the queen. All she had to do was like walk in her tower a bit. Was he gonna die? I don't know. I think that kind of shows why it can be a little like maybe it's great you stack for the mid. But if it's like a sniper who's going to be fragile anyways, it doesn't feel as worthwhile as just helping AM have a good time and then stacking after, like stacking now at this time when he's closer to the Battle Fury and when he's fully functional on his own, rather than stacking too early and then AM, you know, he's just having an awful time because he's against a ranged hero and a Tusk who like rolls onto him. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I want to cover in this video. It's very important to have good lanes when you need to have good lanes. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on my own laning. I still need to spend a lot more time on my own laning. I think the easiest way to improve is just to start with your lane. All the decisions after that are easy. Like if I told you, hey, you're winning as Chen, you're 2 levels up, what should you do? You probably know, I can kind of do whatever I want. I can go top or I can go bottom. The decisions are very easy when you are ahead. So just work on being ahead. And then after that, then it's easier. Then when you're only left with like 20% of the scenarios, it's like, okay, these are the cases I'm not winning. Now what do I do? Instead of having like 50% of the scenarios be losing and it's like, everyone is different. It's really hard to go from here. But yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was helpful. Goodbye.